Hi y'all, I'm Tanya.
And I'm Lee.
We are co-hosts of the I Want to Believe podcast.
Join us for new episodes every Sunday night where we discuss all things paranormal and unsolved.
If you love all things spooky or just want to listen to two geeks talk about ghosts, this is the podcast for you.
You can find us on Audioboom,
iTunes,
Google Play,
Stitcher, and more.
Stay spooky!
Last night we were playing Pathfinder in David's game over at John and them's house, and John got charmed by some sirens to protect the sirens, as somebody's after you. Except I wasn't going to stop killing the sirens, and so John tried to fight me. It almost ended pretty bad for John.
So it's like his PK and something like that.
But for some reason, Jerry came over and seemed to think that John almost killed me, and I'm like, no, it was the other way.
So there was like a song-fueled hate crime.
Pretty much, yes.
As women are wanted.
Oh, I don't know about that.
It got dark.
That's a joke.
We went to the dark place.
Just playing. The views do not necessarily reflect those of Southern Frank.
This is not comics and diversity.
There's no good coming out of this. So you almost killed John over a siren, and Jerry didn't understand what was happening.
Well, John kept dropping pits, and his pits are movable.
Yeah.
So he was chasing me with his pits. I have a real high dex.
It sounds like a weird game you play in like high school. Chase
It's
people with
Pathfinder,
pits.
dude. That's not even, it could have got much worse.
Well, do you guys want to do a podcast?
Let's.
All right, well, let's do a podcast. Hey, everybody, this is Southern Fried Geekery Podcast, and we are coming to you, as usual, live from the Casa de Craig. At least that's where we're recording this, and this is our 25th episode, so I'm pretty excited about that.
Yeah, look at that.
Yeah, it's been a minute, guys.
We're quarter of a century old.
In week years, yes.
Week years.
if that's a thing.
In podcast years.
As always, I'm one of your co-hosts, Caleb Alexander McKenzie.
Like 25 years. I'm Craig Lance.
I'm Sean.
And we're a man down this week. Unfortunately, we've got some bad news to report. Our buddy Jerry died. He's gone. He's no
we're
longer.
heartbroken.
It's sadness.
We are very tore up about the situation.
So apparently, the Green Goblin grabbed him, took him up to the top of a building, and threw him off. And Spider-Man didn't save him; it snapped his neck.
Spider-Man didn't care.
Spider-Man chose us.
No, that's not what happened. He's not Gwen Stacy, and he's not going to come back as Jerry Poole. Jerry, as most of you guys know, also does a thing called Gunpla. And he runs a group here in Central Arkansas where they get together and they build Gundam models from time to time. And unfortunately, our recording schedule prevented him from being in both places at once because he is not, in fact, multiple man. He's somewhere right now in Central Arkansas putting together little models of Gundams.
Damn it, Jerry.
At least that's the story. I'm slightly convinced he might be leading a weird geek-filled sex cult somewhere.
That wouldn't surprise me.
I wouldn't put that past him, but he's not here regardless of where he is. But we're the OGs of the group, so we started this thing. I think we'll be able to kick it without him for a little bit.
The first and the best.
Ooh, shots fired. Anyway, well, we hope he has a great day, and we're gonna miss his presence here. But he'll still be a part of it. He's still in spirit. If you haven't listened to this podcast before, we get together once a week and we talk about all things geek culture, comics. We throw in some manga, some anime. We just a couple of guys sitting around chatting about the good stuff that we know and love. And that's what you can expect this from episode to episode. So it's been a week since we've been able to get together at the table. We record this live, and that's why you get all the fun mishaps. There's been a lot of news that have came out this week, so let's talk about some of that. Kick us off, Craig.
Yeah, so according to Todd McFarlane, the Spawn reboot is going to get a hard R. Don't know what that means, but apparently it's going to be lots of violence and probably some boobs.
Yeah, dark, gritty is what he's saying he's going for. Since he is not only the creator, he's directing movies.
Yeah.
He says he's going to make it the dark, gritty Spawn that kicked off the whole franchise.
Yeah, well, and I think a lot of people want that. If you look at reboots or reimaginings of those types of films, The Crow, etc., people want that dark and gritty. They want that in those universes. They, honestly, if they took what the DCU has tried to do in their films, applied that to things like Spawn, things like The Crow, I think people would be happy with it. I don't know why they got to call it a hard R. Like, what's a soft R?
Well, you say fuck twice instead of just once.
Oh, is that what it is?
And maybe a little classy side boob.
Maybe you just gotta. Is the difference between hard and soft, like how dirty you talk to it? Is that what it is?
That's whether you took your Viagra or
not. Little magic blue pills to make the movie better. So yeah, that's going to be awesome. I've got some news. So there is apparently, speaking of the DCU, possibly getting a soft reboot from the DCU. Maybe a different Batman. Batfleck might be out. That's the rumor. So the rumor mill on the internet this week said that Batfleck, what do you even call him? Might be done. Maybe his dragon tattoo carried him off and out of it. I don't know.
I mean, since he did the first movie, they've been talking about him leaving. So I mean, this isn't anything new. And I mean, the problems with the DCEU is not Ben Affleck.
I've enjoyed him as Batman.
Yeah, I agree.
He was not the bad parts of Batman vs Superman and Justice League.
I mean, I don't care how well you can act or whatever. I mean, it's really hard to overcome a bad script.
Indeed.
It is, but what the strange thing with this too, it's more than just acting. So Ben Affleck he's apparently contracted to write the next solo Batman film. Obviously, he was going to act in it. He's got his hands in the production part of it. So if he does leave, this is going to have more of an impact than whether or not it's just him in the Batsuit. Like I said, writing, producing, doing all this stuff. So, but there's no hard evidence for this. So
it's basically like, as the article that we posted on our Facebook page stated, like, basically Warner Brothers wants basically a younger Batman, because they know that when they started, kind of shoehorned them into a certain Batman role. So they said, if this does happen, it's going to be a reboot in the fact that they're going to have a younger Batman, but it's still completely canon to everything we've already seen. So my best guess is Bruce Wayne got some work done, and he looks super young. And Flash and Wonder Woman we were talking about him back.
If they're going to do that, why don't they just do a movie with Dick Grayson's Nightwing and then have him take on the mantle of Batman?
Because that makes too much sense.
Because it's the DCU and they just can't seem to get it right.
No.
Well, I mean, we don't even know if the Joker is the real Joker at this point. That's the thing with that, though. There's so many questions that we just don't know. Like
maybe they're going the whole comic book route and there's 3 Jokers.
Maybe. That'd be cool. I'm on board.
Yeah.
I wish they'd come out that route in the actual comics, since that's the thing that they decided they were doing.
So moving forward, Sony has decided to go all in on its animated Spider-Verse movies, and they have greenlit a Silk movie. So I'm pretty excited about that.
Now this
Silk's
is
a great character.
I was going to say, this is the young Korean woman that's part of that came out of the Spider Island stuff, I believe, right?
Well, I don't know if she's Korean or not, but you may be very well correct. But she was, they kind of did a backstory with her and brought her into the spider universe where she had been bitten by the same spider as Peter. And no one knew about it. Her parents had kind of locked her away from the rest of the world. And she lived in this, she got taken away from her parents too. And was being held basically captive all these years. And Peter freed her during the Spider Island.
Wikipedia says her name is Cindy Moon, a fictional Korean-American superhero.
Hey, I want a no prize.
There you go.
So, she was a great character. She is a great character in the comic book. She's been a lot of fun. Her and Peter can't be around each other because they are predisposed to want to have sex.
Oh, so pheromones type things.
Yeah, so they stay away from each other. It's like pretty much can't keep their hands off of each other when they're around each other. So because they both have relationships they're in, they stay away from each other.
Do you think if they ever messed up and accidentally engaged in coitus that she would have to eat him when they were done? Isn't that how that works with spiders?
Only Black Widows.
Oh. She eats everybody.
She was a praying mantis.
Are we not doing phrasing?
It's a thing. I haven't read much with her in it. She was in Greg Pak's Totally Awesome Hulk for a little bit. He did this thing where a lot of the Asian characters, especially the younger ones, all teamed up to, I forget what they called it. I don't remember. It wasn't the Champions. It
was all the Asian characters.
Yeah, and so they all got together and did this really cool, made up a little super team as that, like,
temporary thing.
A side aspect to the Champions or something like that. Anyway, a lot of fun. Yeah, she's a great character. So, you know who I don't think of whenever we're thinking about superhero films or comic book films? Kelsey Grammer. Even though he played the Beast in the X-Men films, I really don't think of him when I think of comic book movies. But apparently, I should, because he may or may not be getting cast in the new Doom Patrol television series. Doom Patrol is a part of the Young Animals imprint offshoot of DC. There's a lot of stuff going on there. Gerard Way has been writing the Doom Patrol series. Well, they're talking about potentially casting Kelsey Grammer, famously played Fraser Crane.
And Cheers.
And Cheers. Deep cuts, throwback. So he's being eyed for this character it's known as Dr. Calder. Now, I don't read any of Doom Patrol stuff. Just not in my wheelhouse of things. I tried to read the new series that Gerard Way was doing, where in the first issue, an entire universe sprung out of a Euro that was in a trash can, which,
it happens.
Kooky, crazy type stuff with a robot.
So the Young Animal stuff was pretty decent until it kind of fell behind on schedule, and then I kind of dropped off the book because it was too kind of bonkers to be able to remember what was going on when it was 4 or 5 months between books. So.
Yeah.
And I just didn't have the time to go back and reread everything, or the desire really to go back.
That was my thing. I'm just not familiar with those. Now, we have a friend named Dalton, who we talk about from time to time on the show. Love to have him on sometime. He's a really cool dude. He needs to be our substitute Jerry sometime. That'd be awesome. Dalton loves the Young Animal stuff. He's a big fan of all the Morrison stuff, and so he's kind of my go-to encyclopedia for a lot of this stuff. And he was explaining some of it to me.
Yeah, he loves the old school Doom Patrol too, like you said, the Morrison stuff. But he really was a big proponent of the Young Animals, but I guess that's all going away other than Doom Patrol.
Yeah, I think Doom Patrol is the last of it.
Yeah.
A little anime news we got going on here. We're very excited that they have announced that JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Part 5 has been announced. It's the continuation of a very long-going series called JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. It'll be coming out on October. We're hoping Crunchyroll, one of our favorite anime streaming service. Yes. Sponsorship. But yes, I'm excited about it. I haven't read JoJo's Bizarre Adventure manga, so I'm pretty much following as the anime comes out. So this next one, we're taking it to Italy. It should be pretty crazy and pretty fun.
So it's been a minute since the last JoJo's came out, hasn't it?
I think about 2 years.
Yeah. And for those of you that don't know, it's about a family of vampire hunters.
In a sense, yeah, definitely the roots. It's called JoJo because every main character is a John or a Joseph, and their last name is Joe Star. So they always call them JoJo for short. It's a nickname that happens to always be passed along every 10-year generation through it. And this one will be a descendant further on. I don't know too much detail. Jerry does. He's right ahead.
Yeah.
So is there one cousin that's name is Fernando or something, just to be the odd man out, like Bob, Jojo, and Bob?
We don't talk about him.
Did you not going to mention him?
No.
Yeah, so they hunt vampires and other things, but there's a lot of rock references and stuff in it. And the main vampire one of the main vampires is Dio.
Yeah,
really?
Early runs, his name is Dio Brando. He put on a stone mask from South America that turned him into a vampire. And that was just the very first series. It was real basic, just a good fighting action anime. It has spawned off into its own thing where everyone fights with psychic manifestations of their own bodies called stands. And they just do battle. And anyone from people to dogs, insects. We're going to talk about JoJo one day on a manga run. I'm not sure.
You should. You guys should go on a manga run.
It's an amazing series.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Surprising to me how much Dio has popped up in pop culture recently, because there was an issue of one of the Black Hammer things where Dio, he's kind of like a rainbow in the night. You don't see him.
Nice.
I did that. That was me.
Just to throw it out there, they've had the stands, which basically become the focal point of the series. There's one called Sex Pistols. They've had Red Hot Chili Pepper.
Yeah.
They've had
REO Speedwagon.
Yep. Two brothers called the Oingo Boingo Brothers.
Oh, nice. Craig is a big fan of the Oingo Boingo Man.
Musical references abound for character name, the stand names and stuff. It's great. But yeah, REO Speedwagon has been a long one.
That's awesome.
I'm going to keep the news going. A little bit of sad news. For anyone who follows wrestling, or maybe even seeing him pop up in some pop culture, the wrestler by the name known as Big Van Vader, real name Leon Allen White, passed away on June 18th of heart failure and while suffering from pneumonia.
Oh, man.
I forgot to write down the age. I believe math right, though he's around 63 years old. He was a staple big man in the early 80s, 90s wrestling, and just an absolute legend in Japan. I mean, he's wrestled everywhere from New Japan Pro Wrestling to WCW, WWF. I mean, you name it, he wrestled there. Always a big hulking man. But he had scary agility when he wanted to. That's what they call the Vader Salt, which basically just him backflipping off the top rope onto an opponent when you weigh close to 400 pounds. Pretty impressive.
He was kind of the Bam Bam Bigelow before Bam Bam Bigelow, right?
Around that time, I think he got a little bit started ahead of Bam Bam. And Bam Bam, he was an early guy too. Well, he also passed away a while back.
Yeah.
But he just passed away here recently, and I want to give a little history about him. Before wrestling, I found out, I didn't even know this, that he played for the LA Rams. He was a center for that. He got into wrestling then a little shortly after 79 when he got out of football. And I just want to share a story about this dude that I could not believe. And there's video footage out there on YouTube if you want to look this up. While wrestling another American wrestler in Japan called Stan Hansen, a man legendary for just stiffing the shit out of people, they kind of got a little excited in their match. As we all know, wrestling is a planned event, but things happen.
Right.
The beginning of this match, Stan Hansen, cowboy gimmick, he has a big bull rope and bullhorn, got a little too excited and apparently hit Vader before the match and broke his nose before they even got started.
Ooh.
Then, while proceeding to exchange equally stiff shots, Hansen's thumb apparently popped Vader's eyeball out in the middle of the match, to which he removed his signature mask that he always wears when he wrestled, popped it back in, finished the match, and got a steel plate put in underneath his eye socket a little bit later. He was a tough son of a bitch.
Oh my God!
Wait, so his eyeball came out.
And he didn't stop the match.
He did not. No. Like I said, you can find this on YouTube. I've seen
Wow.
it. It popped out. He shoved it back in. It was caught underneath the eyelids. And then, and you see, he put it back in. Hansen run up, maybe just to, kind of, act like maybe he saw, maybe he didn't. But you can see, kind of get him in the corner, maybe give him time, and you just see Vader lay into him again. We're going to keep going.
Yeah, no, I'm not dedicated to anything that much. No, if my eyeball falls out of my skull, I'm stopping. We're done at this point.
Whatever we're doing,
I'm tapping. I need to go. I need to go somewhere not here. My eyeball is in my hand.
Right.
So
he was a great big man in wrestling. It's a loss to wrestling. So 10 bell salute to Big Van Vader.
Right on, man.
Yeah.
It's been not a great week for heroes, and I didn't even think about this beforehand, but since the news article before this one, there was a lot of talk about rock and roll and metal. This one we're talking about people who passed away. I think it's a good time to recognize the fact that a metal legend, Vinnie Paul, passed away yesterday at the age of 51. I haven't kept up with it, so I don't know. 54. I don't know what kind of complications there were. If it was,
they have not announced what caused it yet.
He's most famously the drummer for Pantera. Recently, has been the drummer for Hell Yeah, which is another fantastic band. His brother was a guitarist named Dimebag Darrell that was murdered on stage a few years ago.
I didn't realize they were related.
Yeah, that's their brothers.
Wow.
Dimebag was murdered while playing a show with a band that they had called Damage Plan.
No, it was when they were with Damage Plan.
Was it Damage Plan?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
You shot him while he was on stage.
Yeah. So hats off to Vinnie Paul. Drink one for us in Valhalla. We've got to take a black tooth grin for you before too long, man.
Well, and then they're just the depth of their family's ability. Their dad was a singer-songwriter for country western music.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So, but yeah, terribly sad about that. So.
Kind of a bummer, man. Kind of a bummer.
It is.
You guys remember, was it last week or week before when we were talking about other outlets for comic books besides just local comic book shops?
Yeah.
I believe at that point in time, GameStop is going to start selling single issues and
It
everything.
worked out so well, they're going on sale.
Really?
GameStop's being sold.
Oh, wow.
They are shopping around for a buyer for the company, and of course the joke going now is, well, we'll give you $7.99.
Damn. Well, I did not hear about that. Yeah. But what I was going to talk about is there's going to be another non-comic book, quote unquote, outlet for comic books. Walmart is partnering with DC, with Detective Comics, to start producing a series of anthologies. They're going to be 100-page giants that are going to be available, I guess, in the magazine section of Walmarts everywhere. Which, again, a lot of people are scoffing at this. If you go on the internet, everybody's got something smart-ass to say. But largely, I'm still going to stand by my original thought. This is not going to affect local comic shops. It's never meant to do that. No one is going to stop going to their LCSs to go pull things off magazine racks. This is going to get people who aren't normally comic book readers to pick up a comic book, especially if they're smart and they make it available kind of like they do the tabloid just near the register.
Yeah.
You put it there. Yeah, moms are with their screaming snot-nosed brat kids who are wanting a fucking candy bar. They see the comic book. They're going to pick that up just to satiate that child. You have a brand new comic fan right there. Mommy, I want more of this. Well, I'm not going back to Walmart because I've got the same one. Well, there's a comic book shop on Google right down the road. Let's go hit that up. It's going to be good for the entire industry. We're not going to see a massive wave of books hitting 100, 200,000 copies being sold anytime soon or anything. But it's good. It's you have to put the product in the hands of people who don't know they want it.
So, as a kid growing up, I didn't have I probably had access to comic book stores, but my parents were not taking me to comic book stores. So, where I got my comics was actually in the magazine stand of the local grocery store. I got my Mad magazines and things like that from the local grocery store. So, this isn't a bad idea. I mean, it's really a great way to get kids to reading comics again. So I'm 100% down for it. I just sad that now I have to go to Walmart once a week to buy a comic book.
I'll send Roger. I'm sending my assault husband to that one. Sean, that brings up a thing. We didn't plan on this, but do you remember where you bought your first comic book at?
The first one I remember purchasing myself was this little like mom and pop grocery store down here in Gravel Ridge, actually, not far from where Jerry lives.
Yeah.
It was on a little spinner rack. I don't know why it was, because I've never had any interest in the Silver Surfer before. But it was him and Drax the Destroyer.
Yeah.
Back when he was Hulk with a purple cape. That era of Silver Surfer and Drax. It was the first book I ever picked up. I don't know why I picked that one, but I did. I read the shit out of it.
Mine was, I forget which title it was, but it was off the shelf at a bookstore called Walden Books. There used to be a chain of them, and it was in McCain Mall. And my mother, we used to come here to Little Rock when I did not grow up in Little Rock. We'd come here, I'd sit down in front of books and read, and she'd go do her shopping, and that's where I found mine. So it was not in a local comic book shop. I don't think I actually stepped inside an actual LCS until I was at least a teenager or a grown-ass man.
Yeah, I'd probably say the same, young teens.
Yeah.
First time I stepped in an actual shop.
I was an adult for sure. No, my stepdad took me once to go buy Richie Rich comic books at the local comic book store in El Cajon, but that's the only time as a kid I remember ever going. Most of mine were bought off the spinner racks at convenience stores or drugstores, grocery stores.
Just places you didn't expect, and that's what builds a family.
Yeah, that's where I was picking up some of my early books, was that same little grocery store we lived out beside Gravel Ridge down here.
Yeah, for sure.
I got something next. IDW is known for putting some of the best licensed comic crossovers, and they're continuing the tradition now. We have a Star Trek the Animated Series crossover with Transformers.
Yeah.
Really?
And I think it's going to be a verse. I think it's going to be Star Trek versus the Transformers.
So IDW has done a really good job of combining all of they own a lot of licensed comics, and I mean, like right now, G.I. Joe, ROM, I want to say the Transformers as well, all in the same universe. It just kind of makes sense. It's just kind of
TMNT.
How does that work?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but most crossovers usually start off with a misunderstanding.
Yeah.
When the fight starts.
You're not wrong.
What I find interesting is that they specifically chose to go with the animated series.
Yeah.
Not a cartoon I'm super familiar with. I know, like, the big thing was they added a cat lady because they didn't want to draw over or something back in the day.
I can't even answer that because it's been so long since I watched the animated series.
Well, no, and for people who don't know, if I'm wrong, correct me. After the original Star Trek came out, it lasted, 2 seasons, 3 seasons?
2 or 3, yeah.
And then was taken off the air. And so they put out this so this is like, the originals are 70s animation style.
Yeah,
absolutely.
That carried on the Trek universe.
Yeah.
And it seems like they want to, they're pulling from that instead of just, Star Trek, like the live action cast. I already seen a picture of the crossover, and that cat lady's there.
Yeah.
Like, I don't remember if she replaced her or not. Like, they had some weird issue with that. Because, 70s. But they are doing a crossover with Transformers, and, granted, I haven't read a Transformers book in a while, but, it's kind of interesting.
Well,
at least give it a flip.
Well, and IDW does some crossovers with DC quite a bit. Like they did Green Lanterns and Planet of the Apes.
Yeah.
They've done Green Lantern versus Star Trek. They've done some different crossovers with DC, and they all tend to be pretty good. So TMNT Batman.
I want a Decepticon to end up being a Borg. Can you imagine,
That's Next Generation.
Yeah.
I don't know if they were in the original or not.
they would have had to exist in that time, though, just because they weren't discovered yet. They were still floating around in some aspect of the universe, right? I don't know, but it makes sense.
It probably.
A Deceptiborg, man. Resistance is futile.
They assimilate and that cube transforms into a giant robot Unicron style.
Just 5 of them.
Amazing.
So, speaking of licensed crossovers, Jim Zub has announced he is writing a Rick and Morty Dungeons and Dragons crossover coming out in September.
I've heard of that dude.
Yeah, Jim Zub's a really good writer, and Rick and Morty is really funny, and Dungeons and Dragons is the thing we enjoy, so I'm all over this book.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he has his own, I know it's on VRV, on one of their channels. He has his own Dungeons and Dragons show.
Does he?
Yeah, him and his friends play D&D, and they, obviously they recorded before because there's animated sequences of their characters and stuff, so he's already been, obviously, a big D&D guy, so this makes perfect sense.
Well, he actually got his break in comic books writing Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So, I'm not a Rick and Morty fan. We've discussed that a plethora of times, and there's no reason to really dig into that, but I actually might look into picking this up because I am a Jim Zub fan. I do like the sword and sorcery stuff. The Dungeons and Dragons books are usually pretty good. And Jim Zub is funny.
Yeah.
I like his comedy writing. I do enjoy that. So I'm kind of, I'll probably pick this one up. And if I don't like it, I will just pass it off to somebody who does.
Sorry, because I've been at work all day. I just realized I made a mistake, and I'm correcting myself. Jim Zub is not the creator of Rick and Morty. That's Mark Hammond.
Yeah.
And Hammond has that show where he plays D&D.
Oh, okay.
Gotcha.
I got confused.
Yeah,
no,
it's like Hammond something.
Yeah, Hammond.
Yeah,
don't ask me right now.
Yeah.
But it's good. Check it out if you have VRV.
Yeah.
It's my turn. Sorry, I'm an idiot. Hey, there's a creative team that it's kind of just everything they touch turns to gold almost. Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips. They've written a number of books together. Craig reads them a lot and loves them. They're largely crime books. Killer Be Killed, I think, is there.
Killer Be Killed, Criminal, Velvet.
Well,
to name a few
I was wondering if Velvet was.
Yeah.
I knew it was Brubaker. I wasn't sure if it was Phillips or not. Well, they just announced that they are going to be writing together their first original graphic novel. All of their stuff is out in trades. You can go pick it up in trade form, but this is something different. This is going to be an all-encompassed story, not done in issue form. It's just going to be put out as one volume. We don't know a lot about it yet. We just know that it's going to be coming out. According to the series description, ever since the death of her junkie mother, Ellie's been obsessed with famous drug addicts. Those tragic artistic souls drawn to needles and pills have been her angels and her idols, but when Ellie lands in an upscale rehab clinic where nothing is what it appears to be, she'll find another more dangerous romance. They're building off of that foundation, so it's going to be kind of cool.
Yeah.
And man, Brubaker, that dude could draw the phone book, and I'd probably look at it.
I mean, Phillips. Brubaker.
Brubaker could write the phone book.
Right.
Phillips could draw the phone book.
Yeah.
I would read the phone book.
Yeah, and there's no word.
The phone book collection.
And there's no word whether Betty Brettweiser is doing the colors on this or not. I would assume she is because she tends to do all of their colors. But regardless, they do really good crime noir type stuff. They're just a very talented team together, the two of them. They tell stories very, very well.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see Betty on this book at all. But they did an article, CBR, I think is the one who put it out. They did an interview with either one of them or the both of them. I'm not 100% sure. I think it was with Ed. But we posted that on our Facebook page. I believe it's on there. You can go check it out and read it. And it's worth doing so because it is this is going to be a big thing for those guys. And a lot of the stuff that they do gets optioned for film. So
yeah,
having that ready-made story there that's go time for those guys.
Yeah.
Jumping back onto more crossover news, it's been announced that Batman and the Max is going to be doing a crossover book.
Well, the big news for that is that Sam Keith is actually coming back to comics to do it.
Oh,
yeah, because he's been out of comics for a long time. And
those of you that don't know, Sam Keith did a lot of the Wolverine stuff back in the 90s. That real big, like short, hulky looking Wolverine, real hairy. That's Sam Keith. He also did the Max book.
Early 90s stuff. That was kind of during the Image Revolution and everything.
Yeah.
Getting him back in comics is big. That's monumental.
It was always a very unique creator. Like the Max is a unique story that I don't even pretend to claim to understand fully.
It was Image's version of the whole.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
In a sense, but with also like a lot of best of my memory, because I haven't read it since it was out.
Yeah.
So a lot of alternate realities, alternate world dimensions, because there was always the Max in the city where super powerful, and then he'd end up in the wilderness, out in the plains like the Serengeti or something with these weird creatures, and that chick is now in jungle attire. You know what I mean? It was very flippant back and forth. It was very like psychological.
I never read it because I wasn't. That was the time period when I wasn't in comics, and I just haven't went back and read some of that '90s stuff from Image. But
read a few issues and the animated MTV show. Actually, they made a TV series.
I was going to ask, I haven't seen that, but I know it's like you can YouTube it and everything.
Go check it out. It was well animated, well drawn, 90s style, very Sam Keith, very unique.
And no shade to throw, but if you do want to read some Max stuff, if you go to cons and stuff, they're not hard to find. Yeah. You can find them in dollar and quarter bins all day long. Maybe not be in the best shape or
for readers,
full runs, but they're not. Yeah, go check it out. It's worth it. Go do some diving.
Speaking of going back in time, Mike Allred is going to bring Dick Tracy back to comic books with IDW publishing it.
Really?
Yeah. So Mike Allred was a big, he still is, comic book creator, artist, writer.
He does everything. His wife Laura colors most of their stuff.
Yeah. So I'm pretty excited about that. Dick Tracy's even before my time in comics, but I remember reading the Dick Tracy comic strips and so forth growing up.
Well, we actually have a friend that we've had on the show that's involved with Dick Tracy. I think one of the main comic strip artists lives not too far from here.
Yeah, Mike Curtis, who is one of the main artists for Dick Tracy and has been for years. In fact, he does a lot of the cons around here and always comes dressed as Dick Tracy. He lives in Hot Springs. And then Joe Staten, who also has been involved, I'm not sure, but he's local somehow, like maybe Southwest Missouri or something, not too far from us. But
and our friend John Lucas just did a week-long run doing the art duties on the comic strip.
Yeah, they kind of fell behind or needed an artist to come in for whatever reason, and they asked John. He had made the contact with them or connection with them at the local conventions, and so they gave him a chance to do a week's run of Dick Tracy. So.
A chance to do an iconic comic strip like that. Who would say no?
Yeah,
that's awesome.
And the movie wasn't fantastic.
Well,
our buddy likes it, but David, but it wasn't horrible. It wasn't great either.
It was a mixed bag.
Yeah.
Like, you saw what they were going for, and it just didn't necessarily translate that well, but, like, for its time, like, the makeup effects were ridiculous.
Yeah.
If you take nothing else from there, like, some people don't even realize that main villain was Al Pacino.
I'm one of those people. I did not know that.
Al
really? I did not. Really?
Yes.
Seriously?
Yeah. Absolutely.
God damn it, now I gotta go back and watch that shit.
Yes, you do.
It's not a bad movie.
And it'll make more sense when you see it, you won't be able to unsee it now. That's Al Pacino behind all that.
Really? It's not a bad movie. It really isn't. It just, I don't think it played well with audiences for whatever reason. But
I don't want to not go back and watch it because it's a bad movie. I just don't want to go back and watch it because I don't have time. Al Pacino? Really?
Al Pacino.
Go Google that, folks, because that's where, I didn't realize that. It's insane. So Marvel announced that they're bringing back a new old title. And this has got me really, really excited. So back in the day, not all of the books that some of their main characters in were called, like Thor was not called Thor. Some of the best Thor stories were in a book called Journey into Mystery. And that's the book that they're bringing back. They're bringing back that title. And as of right now, I don't think it's going to have anything to do with Thor, but it's going to have a lot to do with the original Nick Fury investigating deep X-Men lore. In a lot of ways, the comics have started to mimic the film. Nick Fury right now is based after Samuel L. Jackson. The original Nick Fury ended up dying on the moon. He was kind of a man-on-the-wall character who had all of his LMDs doing 1,000,000,007 things that were keeping the world safe without ever being heard. Meanwhile, he had LMDs being actual Nick Fury, and nobody really knew that the real Nick Fury was camped out on the moon. I forget what that series was called. Original Sin, yeah. Jason Aaron wrote that.
That's when he actually took over becoming the Watcher.
Yeah, that's what it was. And the big guy with
left. And he left.
Thor crying like a bitch.
But he also left Winter Soldier in his old role as protector of the kind of galaxy.
Well, and that was right before the the Secret Wars that was kind of leading up to that, and so really good series. But in this one, it's going to be the OG Nick Fury, the Nick Fury from the World War II days, and he's going to be looking into some of the weird X-Men continuity that a lot of that hasn't been described, unless you read some of Ed Pisker's stuff that he's coming out with, and he's getting into that. But he's just more so telling the story that's already been told. Dennis Hopeless and an artist that I'm not even going to attempt to say his name. So his last name is Morissette Fan, and that's all I'm going to try because I don't want to butcher it that bad.
You don't want him on the show?
I know I do want him on the show. I want him on the show badly. But they're going to revive the classic title and really dive into some of the early X-Men stuff. It's going to be linked to Krakoa, the living island. Do you remember him?
I know that name, but I don't recall too much, read too much with him in it.
Yeah, so there's some old X-Men stuff where there's this island that's alive. Its name's Krakoa, and apparently this is what they're going to be really getting into and checking out. So, interesting. My interest is piqued. I don't necessarily want to say that I'm excited about this and ready to run out and just hang my hat on it.
But the book, it sounds like the book maybe is potentially going to delve into these obscure, like, I don't think Krakoa's been in anything.
No.
So, like, to delve into these obscure characters and obscure things, I think it has a lot of potential for a book.
Absolutely. Aftershock Comics has announced that they are going to launch a supervillain comic called Patience, Conviction, and Revenge, coming out in September. Basically, they take the super criminals and they dump them on an abandoned in the desert, and chaos goes from there.
Right.
So we'll see. Aftershock does amazing things, so I'm looking forward to this book as I do all of their new titles. So.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's Aftershock, man.
Yeah, and any book that kind of takes the super criminals and makes them the focal point, to me that's similar to maybe Wanted or something like that.
Personal opinion, hopefully it's better than Wanted.
I love the book. The movie was a different story.
Same boat. I adore the book. I hated the film.
No, it's sorry, I'm not trying to get on Wanted or not, but I do like Millar's work, but didn't care for Wanted.
Yeah, that's fair. Everything is not for everyone, man.
Yeah.
But what is universally loved these days is Stranger Things.
It is.
And they are getting a comic book that's going to explore what happened to Will in the Upside Down.
Yeah.
Nice.
So I think that's real interesting because they never really saw him in it, but like they never really talked about it.
Yeah, you don't really know
what he was doing during all that time when they were trying to find him.
How did he survive the Demogorgon, like in that land as a kid?
Yeah.
That's going to be,
I think that's a damn good avenue to explore.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I think that's great.
Absolutely.
I wonder that I'm looking at the article right now, and I don't think it has said who's doing what on it.
I don't think it's they've announced.
I'll look it up.
No, I have the article in front of me, and they haven't said it. I was just saying, like, I'm curious because normally when they have a plan, they have a plan.
Right.
So,
well, I mean, like best case scenario would be actually the actual writers maybe would be involved in this. Not just
that would be great.
Interpretation of
that would be cool.
I assume they're writing to make it canon to explain what Will was doing that whole time.
Yeah,
that would actually be pretty dope. Kind of like when Joss Whedon wrote all of the Buffy and Angel.
Yeah,
right. At least hopefully some involvement, so it doesn't seem anything out of character as sometimes these spin-offs can.
Yeah,
for sure. Well, I think that wraps up the majority of the nerd news that came out this week, except for a little Star Wars snippet that we are going to turn our attention to the one and only Craig Lance to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, we have this listed as a Lance rants, but to me, this is a lot to do about nothing.
Yeah,
and
that's fair.
I'm not going to rant a whole lot about it because I quite honestly don't want to give those trolls the acknowledgement that they believe that they've accomplished something, and it has nothing to do with them. And so to get to that point, Star Wars kind of came out and said, listen, all these movies you think are coming aren't the ones that are coming. The only ones that you can count on coming are the ones that we've officially announced. So they didn't really cancel anything. They just said, there's been a lot of rumors about an Obi-Wan spinoff. There's been a lot of rumors about a Lando spinoff. There's been a lot of rumors about a Yoda spinoff. All of these, if we haven't announced it, don't count on it coming out.
Right.
So to me, that's, they've also said they're going to take a step back and kind of review where they're at with the Star Wars story anthology, which is a very smart move at this point. They've released 4 movies at this point. 5, the 5th one will be out next year since they were purchased. It's time for them to evaluate where they're at with this as a company. Right. And, it sounds like we're going to go to a Star Wars movie every couple of years. And you know what? I'm really fine with that.
Yeah. Star
Wars should be an event.
Yes.
If you get one every year, it starts to become a little mundane. I love the Solo movie, and I've only been to see it once. And you know how big of a Star Wars fan I am.
Right.
So, there's a group of neckbeard frat bros out there.
Basement dwelling.
I mean, seriously, that are out there taking credit for, we boycotted Solo and we're causing this. Well, what caused this was a lack of marketing.
Yeah.
And a total reshoot of a movie that they had in the can. They knew they weren't going to make any money on this movie, people.
Well, and in general, it was poor timing as well. I think timing
the release time.
Yeah.
If they had released it in December, it would have done $800 million to $1 billion, just like Rogue One did. But they wanted to keep that May release date. The fact that they even made the release date after a complete reshoot of the movie, I mean, I heard somewhere that they shot 90% of the movie and still made the original release date.
Impressive.
It really
That's Ron
is.
Howard.
Right.
It really is, and it's a wonderful movie. And
the movie's dope.
Yeah.
If you boycott the movie, then you just it's kind of like not liking good things. Apparently.
I wish maybe we'll find the picture, but I saw a little meme that just summarized that so well. If you know those old Tom and Jerry cartoons.
Oh yeah.
Where Tom shoved the shotgun into the mouse hole and it curved up.
Yeah.
Bust out the wall to shoot him in the face.
Yeah.
Tom, since Star Wars fans, shotgun was boycotting Star Wars.
Yeah.
You're shooting yourself in the fucking head of something you love.
Yeah. Well, and it was great.
That just summarized their entire mindset. It's dumb. It's hating something you love. It's because it has changed and moved on, has evolved.
So we got a buddy that hangs out with us on some Wednesdays at the shop, Nick, and he's not a big fan of the new Star Wars movies. And him and I had this conversation last week. And I don't want to come across, and like I told Nick, if you don't like the movies, no one can argue that with you. If you don't like something, that's your opinion, that's fine. If you don't like it because you loved it after you watched it, but then you got home to wait to read the internet reviews to see if you should like it or not, that's a problem.
Right.
Or if you don't like it because it's got a female lead with a supporting cast that has a black man and a Hispanic man, if those are the reasons you don't like it, then you've got bigger issues than I can solve on a podcast.
Well, and dude, I think the funny thing about that, and I want to make it clear that Nick was not one of those.
No,
people.
absolutely.
I was part of that conversation. Nick had very good reasons and well articulated reasons why he didn't care for some of the films that have come out.
And is very non-trolly about it when he's talking.
I was going to say, the thing is when you're talking to people, you can you can read between the lines. You can figure out what people are talking about. And it's very obvious when it comes to, girls are icky and I don't want, why is the black dude the hero?
Heroes with vaginas scare people for some reason.
I mean, vaginas scare me in general. Well, that's just me.
Yeah, but you're that case.
I've got a bad case of the game.
So again, I don't really want to call that a Lance Rants because I don't want to give these mouth-breathing, basement dweller, neckbeard guys the credit that they think they have for stopping they have fixed Star Wars is what they're thinking. They're fixing something that's not broke.
Well, they're also trying to claim credit for something that was just naturally happens when a film doesn't necessarily do what they had hoped. They reevaluate it. Look, because they're a business, they're a company. Their business has been in business for a long damn time.
Yeah, I mean it's
fuck them.
Pretty much, yeah. There's not a lot else to say to that.
Disney knew they were going to lose money with Solo when they reshot 90% of the film. Right. They knew that. They were willing to take that loss so that they could present a very good movie, rather than a very average movie. So they took that on the chin. If you don't think they're going to make their money back, you're wrong. We haven't even talked about video sales yet or anything of that nature. In the long run, they're going to probably double, triple their investment on that movie over time. Absolutely. This movie will be around for 80 years. People will still be watching this movie just like they are the rest of the Star Wars movies.
It's just interesting because a lot of, and I don't know that we've even necessarily talked about it, but a lot of the same things you're saying are what I was able to talk to the guys on the Comic Book Bears podcast about. They invited me to come on their recap of kind of a movie thing. We talked about all three of the films that came out in that little window of time. And same thing you're saying is zero marketing, near null marketing came out for this.
Certainly not on the level of Star Wars.
At all. Plus, like you said, this was the third movie on the tail end of 3 ginormous blockbuster films that draw from the same viewer pool. Yep. Like these aren't separating. You're not diving into different market shares here. You're drawing from the same well.
Right.
You know, everybody who went and saw Infinity War turned around and went and saw Deadpool, and then at the same time wanted to go see Solo. But you can't go to. I mean, I'm back in college now, so my husband has a great job and is financially doing fine. But it costs a lot of money to go to a movie.
Yeah.
You can't go see a movie and get popcorn and a drink and not spend $40 for 2 people. It's damn near impossible.
Well, like I said, my love for Star Wars, and I really love this movie, and I've only been once to see it.
Yeah.
And that says something because I usually go watch a Star Wars movie 4 or 5 times when it's in the theater.
Right.
So I don't know that it's a boycotting so much as people suffering blockbuster burnout in the middle of the summer.
We got shit to do.
Yeah.
Folks is going on vacation. Well, all right. Well, that's kind of going to wrap up our news section of this whole thing. Lots of stuff will come out throughout the week as this kind of goes on. If you want a heads up or a jump start about what we're going to talk about on the show next week, go visit our Facebook page. We're posting articles on there all the time. We're having conversations where, it's the internet, so we're able to talk about things in a little bit more of a connecting fashion with the Southern Fried fam, and we would like to invite you all there to do that with us. Kind of build a community with us. It makes it fun. It makes it really fun. Well, moving on. Normally at this point we would have a manga ramen section where Jerry and Sean dive deep into a manga or an anime that they really love. But this is kind of a special episode for us as we want to do. We kind of have each episode has a theme, something a little bit different, kind of mix things up. We're right smack dab in the middle of the 6th month of the year. This is what we're going to call the halftime show of 2018. A lot of talk shows, a lot of podcasts, what have you, just media outlets. At the end of the year or the beginning of the year, they'll do a best of list where they talk about what books that that were their favorite throughout the year. We all keep lists of the things we like, I think, for the most part. But I don't know about you guys, but whenever I get to January or even December, I really can't remember what I read the last January. Like, a lot of things get lost. Yeah. There's a lot of time. We read a lot of comics. And so we thought it would be cool to kind of get together and kind of have a halftime show. Like I said, what in the first 6 months of the year has solidified itself as our favorite books so far? What ongoing series, what all these kind of different things have really been the standouts up to this point? And then we'll see how the rest of the year goes. And the fun thing about this is we're going to be able to revisit all of this in January or in December or January and see what held up, see if we changed our minds on anything. So I'm really
if you
excited.
don't like our opinion now, you're just still not going to like it in
pretty much. So we got together, we brainstormed, we figured out some different, call them categories of the books of the different genres and everything to get together to come out and talk about it. So I think I will kick this off with the first category, and it's something that most of the books we read are going to be floppies. They're stuff that they're produced, they're in your hand, or graphic novels, but there is a huge market, or at least a huge presence for webcomics that aren't ever printed. They're not ever put into a physical medium, and so you're able to go online and read these things. So I'm going to kick us off, and I think what we're going to do, the way this is going to be presented is I'll go, Craig goes, Sean goes. Is that cool with everybody? Awesome. My favorite webcomic up to this point is Kirby, a biography of Jack Kirby by a man named Tom Scioli. This is a webcomic that is put out for free on Instagram. You can find it at Kirby Comic. Fabulous, fabulous story. Goes from his time before World War II, deals with what he went through in World War II, and right now we're just past that to where they're in the midst of making Marvel what it was.
Oh, very cool.
Fascinating bit of history, really well put together. Like I said, for free on Instagram. You can go back and read the entire thing. It's right there at your disposal.
Very cool. My webcomic, I don't read a lot of webcomics, so I actually chose a strip. Cyanide and Happiness.
Oh, yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, you can find them on Facebook or on their website, explosum.net. Created by Ron Denbleicher, Chris Wilson, Dave McEltrek. I can't say his name. McEltrek.
And if you don't like how we just said your name wrong, feel free to come on this podcast and fight us about it.
Formerly Matt Melvin. Matt, I believe, is left their group, but yeah, according to Wikipedia anyway. So, it's a really funny kind of look at life from, absurdist kind of humor that Caleb generally doesn't like, but I think he gets a kick out of Cyanide and Happiness.
I do get a kick out. Well, because they're not really absurdist humor as much as they are just sarcasm. Like deep cut sarcasm.
Yeah, I could.
Maybe that's just the ones you've seen.
Yeah, some of it's pretty absurd.
Maybe so. Maybe I live by proxy.
I mean, they've even created a version of Apples to Apples or
Cards Against
Humanity
Style
game.
Yeah, build your own comic strip.
Yeah.
It was interesting.
Yeah, so that's mine.
Oh, well, I'm kind of with Craig on that, actually. I don't read a lot of web comics, so I'm picking a comic strip. My pick is actually Penny Arcade.
Okay. I've heard of this one.
You heard of this one?
Yeah.
It's a long-going comic strip from the creators Jerry Holkins and Mike Krahulik. They started off just publishing a little 3-panel comic strip about video games, and slowly built into pop culture and covering almost anything. And their company has grown so big that even if you've never heard of the comic strip, you may have at least heard of their convention called PAX.
Yeah.
That is one of the biggest video game conventions in America, and it all started from this little comic strip. It's just funny observational skill. Well, I said that video games is kind of their bread and butter, but they'll tackle kind of anything going on in the world, and it's just wonderfully drawn and just written hilariously. And side note, they do live D&D games at their PAX conventions, and they're fucking hilarious.
That's dope, dude.
That's very cool.
So I'm also going to be standing in as kind of a proxy for Jerry on this thing since he couldn't be with us. He put together a list of things. Jerry does not have a favorite webcomic. He doesn't read webcomics, so
I think he did
unable to
5 years ago, maybe. Now he's lost interest like most of his hobbies.
He told me that he was going to put down a manga, but then he felt like that's not really fair because they're really a published comic.
He's talking about how we have to read them.
Yeah. So,
but I do want to just point out there for the listeners, I am going to be reading Jerry's proxy votes. We're just not going to talk about them. Our next category in this little round table is going to be science fiction. It's kind of a broad category, and so I'm sure we're going to have some fairly different answers. I'm kind of excited to hear this. My favorite sci-fi book at the moment is The Wildstorm by my dude, Warren Ellis. Y'all know how much I love this guy. Him and a gentleman named John Davis Hunt are just kicking 9 kinds of ass on this book. It's fucking phenomenal. And it really is a sci-fi book. Like, I'm sure a lot of people out there are going, well, this just sounds like it's the Wildstorm. That was just weird 90s action figures and everything. It really is a science fiction book at this point. You're getting it's a reimagination really of the 90s series. You're getting Warren Ellis writing characters like the Engineer, Savant, Zealot, my dude Grifter. I love that character. The war between international operations and Stormwatch is still going on. It's really, really technologically deep. Like there's a lot of stuff going on.
I brought in Zealot and Grifter.
Yeah, man. Yep.
Team now. That's awesome.
Oh well, the Wildcat teams are a part of it. It's all part of the Wildstorm.
Gotcha. I wasn't aware of all that.
Oh man, it's awesome, dude. It's good. It's real good.
So this was a really tough category for me this year. There was a lot of good science fiction books, which I'm sure Sean's probably going to pick one that I had on my list, and I took it off because I figured Sean would.
It's a safe bet. Yeah. Silent Read's probably one actual science fiction book.
So I went with a different one this time, and to no surprise probably to anybody listening, I went with Darth Vader. Because this second volume since Marvel started doing the Star Wars books again, is Darth Vader that takes place post Revenge of the Sith, pre A New Hope. And it's really a fantastic book because you're getting that history between like I said, Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope. So there's a lot going on there, stuff that you didn't know happened. You learn how he makes the red lightsaber and lots of cool things. He's hunting down Jedi. Real fun. Charles Soule's writing it. Various artists have been on it. So, of course, Marvel publishes it. Go read it.
Oh, I've always heard good things about the Vader series.
Yeah.
My pick is probably no one who's listened to the show before is Saga. Is my sci-fi book.
Okay.
Well, I say it can go multiple ways, but I'm judged by the fact that it started off in space with it, so I'm calling it sci-fi.
It's a sci-fi book.
Although there's magic, sword, and sorcery, it isn't all.
It would fit that too.
But Saga is definitely my pick for science fiction. Of course, if you don't know, produced by Image Comics, written by Brian K. Vaughan, and drawn by Fiona Staples. It is the most fucked up Romeo and Juliet story you'll ever read. I know we've gushed on it, so I'm not going to linger too long. Amazing book. If you haven't read it, the first trade's $10. Give it a try.
It's seriously good. Jerry's pick for best sci-fi is Dr. Star and the Kingdom of Lost Tomorrows by Jeff Lemire, Max Fiera, and Dave Stewart.
Very cool.
So that's his. Next up on the list, we have our favorite sword and sorcery title. This is going to kind of encompass a lot of different things, but just kind of imagine, if you will, not to use a trademark, but Dungeons, Dragons, and that type of thing. Just going all wizards and everything, man. There's a whole lot in here. So my pick for this is actually Curse Words by Charles Soule and Ryan Brown. It's insane. I don't know how else to put it. It's all about extra dimensional wizards that break into our world and chaos happens. There's a talking shapeshifter that likes to take the shapes of different Australian animals, and there's a platypus for a while, and I don't even know what she is right now. Wizor is the main character, and in our world, he can't tap into his magic, at least at will. He has to do things so he can absorb magic so he can put it back out, so his beard is constantly growing and shrinking, kind of a Samson thing. The whole world, Hole, is where they kind of stem from. It's like a hellscape. Anyway, it's insane. It's fascinating. Probably my favorite Charles Soule book out right now.
Again, this was one that was super tough this go around. Curse Words I originally had on here, but I had a feeling you were going to pick it. Not that we can't duplicate, but I wanted to kind of go a different route here. I chose Eternal Empire by Sarah Vaughan and Jonathan Luna. And this book, for those of you that aren't reading it, is it's a male and a female. They live in this world with multiple sons, and they're all kind of prisoners of the Empress. They both get these visions and run away from escape their slave at the same time. They run into each other in the wilderness, and when they get together, something explosive happens. They have powers that only activate when they're around each other. Come to find out that their fathers are dragons. The Empress is their sister, and also a dragon born. She's trying to imprison them so that she can use their power now. So it's really a great book.
Wow.
So, yeah.
That's some crazy shit you just said.
Yeah, it's the same team that did Alex and Ada, which is a story about a dude falling in love with an android. So
I'm not reading that book, and I'm asking myself why now.
yeah, it's really good. It's really good.
That sounds amazing. Well, mine is one I believe I know I've talked about on the show before. It is still my favorite sword and sorcery book. Is Rat Queens.
Yeah.
I know I've mentioned on the show before, and I know I don't have varieties for you guys. Rat Queens is Dungeons and Dragons that you and your drunk friends play.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just full of cussing and violence and good damn time. Still being written by the man whose last name I always butcher. It's Curtis J. Weed. As always, you can always come on this show and find me about your last name pronunciation, sir, anytime you're ready. And currently being drawn by Tess Fowler.
Yeah.
It's just a phenomenal book. If you like sword and sorcery with a bit of a light heart and a little bit of a gutter humor, it's the book for you.
Well, and mostly an all-female cast, if I'm not mistaken.
Indeed, absolutely all-female cast. And of course, more characters come in where they've had some men, but the Rat Queens themselves are an all-female group.
Yeah.
It's a great book.
So if you want a little bit of advice on reading comics, anything that Curtis Weib writes, go ahead and sign up for it because it's amazing.
Absolutely.
All right, we're going to play a guessing game on this one. What do you think Jerry chose?
I know what it is, so I'll wait.
Well, I had it in my head with one you've been talking about.
Jeremy Hahn.
I'm going.
It's The Realm.
Yeah.
This is Jerry's bread and butter right here by The Realm by Seth M. Peck and Mr. Jeremy Hunt.
Yeah.
Also a great book. I just want to throw out there, because so far there hasn't been any crossover. I just want people that are listening to this, we did not get together and discuss this beforehand. So far we haven't had any overlap, but it won't be surprised if it happened.
Yeah,
we wanted to have this to be as honest as we possibly could make it. And so we purposely didn't ask each other or talk about what our answers would be before the show.
Well, now I will say that I chose some of mine based on kind of what I thought you guys might choose because I wanted to give it a little bit more variety. But I could be wrong on some of them.
So you did not check with us.
I did not check, but
I made brash assumptions about us and what we were going to pick.
I did. I assumed your choices.
And you were right, sure.
Pretty much, yeah.
And I'm only saying that because on ones I was having a hard time deciding on, I'm like, well, so-and-so is probably going to talk about this anyways. Let me add another one that somebody may not have heard of. That's a good book.
I mean, we've known each other now for years. So we know what we read. We've recorded what we talk about.
Yeah, absolutely.
I didn't consider you guys at all. I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
So,
you and your shirt.
Speaking of fuck, our next category is all ages. So, no, it's not. It's horror. Sorry, I got.
Well, it was still a great segue. I would have let it slide.
Craig
said,
damn
you know.
So our.
Hey, I don't make the list. I just read off of the list.
He ain't wrong.
Oh boy. Our next category is our favorite horror book, and so far, right now, even though it's going to be ending soon, mine is Harrow County by Cullen Bunn and Tyler Crook. Love this book. It speaks to the little boy in me that grew up out in the middle of the rural Arkansas. A lot of the things in the books are based off of colloquialisms and based off of superstitions that I grew up with as a child, old horror stories, and just really regional Southern Gothic tales that I grew up with. That love this book, hands down, is my favorite horror book being written.
So horror, once again, another tough one this year for me. There were so many good ones. I ended up settling on Redneck, Donnie Cates and Lysandro Theron and D. Cunniffe. I'm quite positive I butchered two of their names.
You know what to do.
So, again, we've talked about this book before. It's a book about Southern vampires fighting with Southern preachers and their families and the chaos that ensues when they, do the things that vampires and preachers do when they're fighting each other.
In the South especially makes it an amazing book.
Yes.
Southern preachers are scary.
Hey, yes. I'm the son of one, and this is what happens.
Yes.
My pick is Hungry Ghosts. We spoke about it a while back when the first issue came out. It is published by Dark Horse and written by the late Anthony Bourdain. So I brought up this book when I spoke about his passing. They're amazing stories. Also, just various artists have drawn. There's amazing stories of really leaning towards Japanese horror and with food involved. They're just quick little, usually they do 2 stories in the issue. So
yeah.
They're quick, awesome ghost stories based around Japanese horror. And it's an amazing book. There should only be one more coming out. I'm anxiously awaiting it. And can't pick it up in the singles. I'm sure there'll be a trade. You can scoop it up.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. I remember you talking about this. It's on my list of things to pick up and trade. So for Jerry, he would like to make his choice Infidel by, let me prepare myself, Hornsack Pickashote and Aaron Campbell on art, published by Image Comics.
Yeah, a fantastic book. I almost chose this book. It took a very dark turn. It's a mini series, so it's got one more issue. If you're interested in possession type books, stories, pick it up when the trade comes out.
Awesome. Now we're going to go into all ages books.
Speaking of fuck,
our next category is all ages books. So for my all ages book, this is, I've got a couple of nieces that one of my favorite things to do when they come and visit is to bring them up to our local comic shop and let them pick up a couple of books. And I actually subscribe to a couple of books on my pull list just for them. And above and beyond, not even close, their favorite series and mine, because I always I screen everything. I'm not going to let them read something I haven't read. Mine is the Superhero Girls. I guess you'd call them trade paperbacks or graphic novels from DC Comics. This is a collection of, they're obviously all ages stories, but it's all of the DC heroines and even some of the villains, the female characters that are going on little adventures and doing all kinds of crazy, kooky stuff in the superhero DC universe. You've got Batgirl, you've got Poison Ivy, just all of them. That really, really fun books. I find myself grinning from ear to ear and loving it. And they've really got my nieces in the comics, and that to me is that's just touching.
Absolutely.
So I buy some all age comics, but I don't necessarily read some of the children's comics. So one that I chose here is actually, I would say, more of a teenager book, like a CW. There's nothing in it that a kid can't read, though, so that's why I went ahead and went with it. And it's Archie by Mark Waid, obviously published by Archie Comics. Various artists have been on it this year, so it's a really good story, coming of age type comic. Even for somebody like me that's an older person, not that I'm old, but older than a teenager,
No,
for
you
sure.
You had it right the first time.
Yeah, so,
If looks could kill.
right, no, I'm trying to think. It's just a good coming of age story, and it's told, because it's Mark Waid, it's told in a way that a 46-year-old man can read it and still be interested in what's going on, without feeling like I'm watching a CW drama.
Nobody should be watching those.
Right.
I actually don't mind some of them.
Yeah.
I said nobody.
You did. You fight Roger. I'm not fighting him.
No, he's adorable.
I love him.
I know, that's why he's adorable. He's evil to you. And luckily he doesn't listen to any of this, so we're safe. Like Craig, actually, my all ages pick is actually rated teen, but again, I don't think it's anything most young people haven't already seen. My pick is My Hero Academia. Yeah, manga that comes out every now and again here.
Yeah.
Published by Viz Media. Created, written, and drawn by Kohei Horikoshi. Again, we've spoken about it before, but again, it's a world of people born with powers, people who are superheroes. Main character doesn't have any power at the beginning, but still wants to be a superhero. And it's just a great story that I think, like, of never giving up, adapting to your situation, critical thinking, as well as fighting villains and spandex. You know what I mean? It's just a great book. And I think, maybe not, small kids, but young kids, preteens can definitely get into this book. And there's nothing in there that's going to be completely offensive.
Right on. Jerry has put his in as Scales and Scoundrels, which is published by Image Comics. It's done by Sebastian Garner, and Galad is the artist.
Sure is.
Yeah, something.
That's the one I was trying to remember for his fantasy. I was trying to think of that title.
Scales and Scoundrels has been a good book, and I can see that being an all ages book as well. So.
And I think Sean's read quite a bit of it, hasn't he? Yeah, is that not one of them?
I've read it.
Okay, that was what it was. Your beards mix you up sometimes.
I have a beard. He has a goatee. You have
Nothing.
pubic hair.
I do. That's a fact. That's a true story.
That went weird.
On the all ages section. Oh boy. All right, so next on the list is our favorite crime series. I think we can all agree this one was a hard category for us to pick. You think of what constitutes a crime story. We read things about superheroes fighting crime, so largely lots of things can be crime stories. For this one, my pick was Jessica Jones by Brian Michael Bendis and Michael Gaydos. It might sound like an unexpected choice for the category. A lot of people think of her as a superpowered entity fighting crime. She's got her Netflix show. She's part of the Defenders and everything else. But this book is, in a lot of ways, a crime book. She's still using her detective skills. She's solving crimes off the book. She's a vigilante, as are most superheroes, but she's especially a vigilante. She's willing to do break some ethics to do what she needs to do. They're dealing with the Purple Man again right now in the story, which is fixing to end soon because, as we all know, Bendis has left and is now doing something on Superman. I don't know if you want to call it writing or not, but it's ending. So we'll see. This is one of those that will probably very much change when we do this again in 6 months.
Yeah. So again, this was a tough one. I have two written down here, and I'm still not sure which one I'm going to say. I'm going to go with Deadly Class by Rick Remender and Wesley Craig. It's an Image publication. It's more of a teenagers in high school learning how to be assassins book than a straight-up criminal book. But to me, it fit the requirements of a criminal book because it's about criminals. So it fit a crime book to me. And them trying to justify and live with the consequences of their actions. So, it was a hard choice for me.
Right. I'm the same. I literally just thought of something like, I have nothing written on my sheet. And I thought, maybe I could say Savage Dragon, but he hasn't been a cop in a long time. So I'm actually going to go with the last issue of Hit Girl. That finally became a good crime-stopping book when Lemire took over with Hit Girl traveling to Canada. And she's not fighting super villains. She is looking for drug dealers, gun runners. She's fighting crime.
Yeah.
And full extent with as much blood and violence as she possibly can. If you haven't been reading it now, now's a good time to jump in because it's the start of a new arc. And Jeff Lemire writing it has been amazing already.
Yeah.
Jerry, for this one, has written in Thanos, and he actually scratched out crime series and just wrote the villain comic, which is really funny. But yeah, Thanos, which was a series originally started off by Jeff Lemire and Mike Deodato Jr., afterwards was taken over by Donny Cates. I don't have who did the art duties in that in front of me, but that's where you get Cosmic Ghost Rider. Anyway, you've heard Jerry talk about it 1,007 times.
And he's read you several issues.
Yes, which is a thing that he does. So, but yeah, he loves that book, and I based off of the criteria we put in there, I'd definitely call that kind of a crime comic. So our next category on this is our favorite solo hero book, a book that features a single hero not working.
This is going to be the one where we get some crossover.
This I don't even know. I don't even know if you can call it crossover. It's just going to be what it is. Yeah, Hive Mind, definitely Hive Mind. I'm going to go ahead and kick us off and just say it. No, Batman. Not even going to front. Tom King is killing it. There isn't another books on the stands anywhere close to it. For me, a runner-up might be Jason Aaron's Mighty Thor, because I figured, like I said, I prepped for this because I knew you were going to cross over, but nothing compares to what Tom King is doing with Batman right now. Not this year.
Yeah.
On my sheet, because I knew one of us was going to kind of doing a Craig, I wrote Savage Dragon, but my heart of heart couldn't keep that on there. And I had to write fucking Batman, because it's been amazing.
Yeah.
From the jump.
Yeah. I mean, that's three of us agreed with Batman.
So we're all three on Batman? Well, Jerry was the odd man out on this one.
What?
Yeah, probably, because I think he probably...
He doesn't read Batman, actually.
Oh, does he not? He's not on Batman. Well, that's his fault.
He's a piece of shit. Sorry, love you, Jerry.
No, that's okay. His was Invincible, which ended this year.
Yeah.
But
damn good book.
I think that's a fine choice, especially with it ending this year.
Right.
I'm actually going back and reading it right now. I'm on the 5th volume.
Robert Kirkman and Ryan Otley.
Yep.
And give it another try.
It's good, man. It's good. It's really good.
I actually have a piece of original art from that.
Really?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Wonderful. I haven't seen that. All right, so our next category on this is our favorite teen hero book. This is a culmination book, can be anything, and I'm not going to say who it could be because I don't want to step on anybody's answers, but you know what teams are, I hope.
Yep.
I think, probably. Mine is going to be Red Hood and the Outlaw, which is probably not something that a lot of people would think of. Scott Lobdell has been destroying this book by injecting it with classic literary themes. There's been a whole lot of Grapes of Wrath tied up into this series, and I've talked about it a few times. I spoke on it a few times. Artists like Dexter Soy, Sergio Sandoval, Trevor Hairsine doing a more than serviceable job. I don't want to. These guys aren't doing anything. Fair is fair. They're doing a serviceable job. They're making great art. They're not anything bad. They're also not producing anything that I would just say has been the most outstanding things. They're not winning Artist of the Year, but they're doing a phenomenal job with sequential storytelling. God damn, I love this book. Seriously, it's so good.
Yeah. Mine, again, went back and forth on a couple of books. I ended up settling with Detective Comics, which generally isn't considered a teen book. But the first half of this year, it was a teen book, and damn was it good. So James Tinian IV was a writer. Various artists, as happens on these books. But, man, it was a good run while it was a team book. Now it's going back to being a solo Batman book. But that first 30 books or so since Rebirth has been amazing.
I'll second that. That was on my short list.
Yeah.
My pick is actually Runaways.
Yeah.
Which is a series I'm a big fan of. I admittedly have mentioned before that I don't think it had the best start, but these last few issues have been great.
Yeah.
If you don't know, Runaways is published by Marvel, written by Rainbow Rowell, and artist is Chris Anka. If we are doing a book of the week, the show, I'll be getting more into the newest issue. But now that the band is back together, I make no secret, I hate the whole, we have to get the team back, we're all arguing stuff, because we know it's going to move on. It's called The Runaways. They're not going to split up the entire run, unless it's the TV show. But now that hey, look.
It was what it was.
Can't wait for season 2. But now, So they got the team fully together. They've been going. These last few issues have been great, and overall, it's still a very good series.
Yeah.
Right now, it's my favorite team book, though. I didn't link in Avengers because there are only 2 issues in, but that's got a good chance.
There were several team books that have only had 2 or 3 issues out right now that I purposely didn't pick. Because they're not through the first arc, I couldn't bring myself to write them.
That's why I did.
Jerry's pick was another one out of the DC wheelhouse. It was the Terrifics. So far it's been pretty great. It's kind of I think was supposed to be a DC analog by Jeff Lemire for the Fantastic Four. I don't think it ended up being that. I have my own opinions on it, but Jerry absolutely enjoys this book, and it's solid. It's a very solid book.
Yep.
And a really good choice on his part. So overall, what's your favorite superhero title right now? Mine's Batman, just hands down.
I had Batman. I took it off because there's a new superhero book that I'm really loving. It doesn't have the run yet that Batman has, but Weapon H by Greg Pak by Marvel has been phenomenal. It's only 4 issues in. Right now, it's not Batman, but it's a very good book.
Well, my pick is motherfucking Batman. Because it's an amazing book. And definitely the superhero genre to me is the cream. I know you agree with that too, but you had to give something else.
I have Batman on here so many fucking times that I had to put something else in there.
I am unashamed of that fact that you're about to hear a lot of Batman from me in the next few categories.
Oh no, man, that's fair.
Tom King is absolutely killing it in the superhero genre, and Batman is an amazing book. If you're not reading it, why do you hate yourself? Love yourself. Go read Batman.
Yeah, absolutely.
Jerry's choice was Amazing Spider-Man. Dan Slott's just wrapping up his 10.5-year tenure on that book, and I'm not on that book, but from what I understand, it's been phenomenal.
It's really good. Well, the last couple of story arcs.
He went down swinging.
Yeah.
And that's what he named his series.
Absolutely.
That may be so, but don't be Jerry. Read Batman.
And Weapon H.
Just read everything we tell you to. Yes. We won't
Obey.
We won't steer you wrong. All right, so this is where we're going to get away from kind of genre titles and start thinking about books as how they come out and depending on how they come out. So our next category is going to be our favorite miniseries. These are books that come out and they're not ongoing. They are limited to 4 to 6 issues, very small, and they tell a complete story. My favorite one thus far has been A Lockjaw by Daniel Kibblesmith and Carlos Villa. I have not laughed reading a comic this much since I don't know when. Everything about this book took me off guard. I had no idea that it was going to feature D-Man, who's a C-West character that I love, that it was going to take you through a bunch of different universes and just do all kinds of craziness. If it comes out in trade, I'll let you know when. This book is so cool. It was so fun.
Yeah. Mine is Death of Love by Justin Jordan and Don L. DeLay from Image Comics. It was a fantastic, fun read with amoeba sex in it and
doggy style amoeba sex
and Cupid's dying, Cupid A dying, and Surfer Eros and lots of good fun stuff. And it was a great fun read.
My favorite miniseries of this year was Batman White Knight by Sean Murphy.
Excellent.
Also on my short list.
Dude, just an amazing take on an alternate reality Batman. I mean, for me being the fanboy that I am for classic Harley Quinn, that was enough to put it on the list. But it is just a damn good story about what if Joker and Batman kind of flip sides, in a sense.
It was good enough for them to create
it spawned off its own. What was everything called?
Black. DC Black. Well, Imprint.
Yeah, Imprint's the buzzword going on now.
Yep.
But the Murphyverse is becoming a thing. That's all thanks to this book. If you didn't get the floppies, you can't get the floppies, get the trade. It's damn good.
Yep, absolutely.
For Jerry, he wrote down that his was Venom Inc., which is a title I didn't read. So,
nope.
But he loves that character.
He does.
And I remember this coming out, so I remember when this was happening. Did Dan Slott write this? I forget off the top of my head.
Jerry can tell us next episode.
Yeah, I really don't know.
All right, so as far as ongoing books go, now these are books that they were presented to be long form, and this is our next category. My favorite ongoing book, unfortunately, ends next week.
Uh-oh.
Harrow County. Cullen Bunn, Tyler Crook. It was my favorite horror book. There's some overlap there. It's been my favorite ongoing book for the last couple of years. The last issue is next week. I'm going to claim it now. No one else can talk about this but me. I will fight you. And I'm also going to cry. Man, this book has been just a staple of my reading and my pull list. Going years now. And just phenomenal. I'm a little heartbroken that it's going away. But to be fair, Cullen Bunn has told his story. And no book should go on past the point that it should go on. So he had an end point in mind. We're getting there. It's wrapping up. So I'm sad to see it go, but I'm glad to see it finish strong.
So my favorite ongoing book's been going on since 1940. Does that count? Or 1940s?
Yeah.
It's Batman.
I didn't know if we were going Archie or Batman. I don't know
Well,
when
it's
Archie
Batman.
started.
About the same.
Right. So, Batman. And good call. Mine, of course I could say Batman, because much like what Craig said, but no. But for me, what I wanted to give credit to, because the rest of my list is damn near Batman, spoilers, is a series that has been ongoing with the exact same creative team from the jump since the early 90s. Caleb's looking at me because he knows what I'm about to say.
I can
Savage
guess this.
Dragon is my favorite ongoing since 1990, whenever it came out.
Yeah, man.
Stick to that.
Eric Larson has not stopped making his batshit insane, amazing comics that he's been doing from the jump. They may miss a month or two every now and again. We all have timeline issues. But, yeah, Savage Dragon, without a doubt.
Awesome.
Jerry has written down Black Hammer for his, which, again, Jeff Lemire, and, hey, that was on my short list.
Yeah.
It absolutely was. So, he hit the nail on the head with that one. I can't blame him for that pick. All right, so the next couple of categories, we're actually going to be talking about creators. These are people who make things that we love. These are people who do the work and produce them. And it's not necessarily a judgment of what's going on. It's a judgment of the actual craft of comic book making. So our first category is our favorite colorist. Mine, hands down, is Dave Stewart. He's working on some of the, if not all of the Black Hammer books. So, that was Jerry's favorite ongoing series. He's also doing work on what is on the short list to become my new favorite horror series once the terrible thing happens. That's going to happen next week. But Gideon Falls. And he also has done a lot of coloring on Maestros. He's a great job. He's won several Eisners in the past. I think he's won Eisners the last 8 out of 6 years.
Well, I think he's Jeff Lemire's favorite colorer.
Oh, and there's a reason for that.
Yeah.
Because the man is just bonkers.
He's also mine.
Really?
Yeah. So,
Nice.
hey, and you said everything I was going to say, so we can just move on.
My favorite color is June Chung from Batman. Those colors on those pages blow my eye sockets out every time I see them.
Yeah.
I gasm in the literal sense.
She's very
She is
good.
crazy talented, and some beautiful artwork that complements. But we'll get on to the next category.
Hey, well, hang on. Dave Stewart for Jerry. He wrote down Dave Stewart as well. This is a hard category because right now there are a lot of good colorists.
Yeah, and usually Betty Brettweiser gets a lot of love from us being a local, but Dave Stewart this year has been on so many good books and done such an amazing job on the books he's on.
Every time I turn around, I see his name.
So,
and Sean ain't wrong about June Chung. That just works of art left and right. But there wouldn't be anything to color if we didn't have really amazing artists producing some incredibly solid line work for these things. My favorite artist, and that's our next category, I should say, before I get too far ahead. The next category is our favorite artist. This is one of the hardest for me to pick because, as I've said before, I need a good writer on a book, but art encompasses so much of what makes comics to me. And I love original art, everything about it. So I think based on line work alone, I've got to go with Andrea Sorrentino. His work on Gideon Falls.
Out of my brain.
Are we not? Yeah. We're
Yeah.
okay. Is that
Nice.
all right, man? Well, since I covered the last one, why don't you talk about
No,
Andrea
go for
Sorrentino?
it, man. I'll just throw in that he's been teamed up with Lemire for a while. They worked on Hawkeye, which was not a great run, but they worked on Green Arrow together. They're an amazing team together, and this book is just beautifully drawn.
Everything about it.
What else you got?
Well, I was just going to say, specifically for what he's doing this year, his work on Gideon Falls. He did a guest spot on Old Man Logan number 31 that just took my breath away because I didn't expect it.
Lemire was on Old Man Logan for a while.
Well,
so
yeah,
they did some of that.
Well, Lemire and Sorrentino both had their run on that, but after they got off, there was just there's a really good. I spoke about it, I think last week, but on issue 31, they surprised readers and they brought them back to do like a little blip, like a flashback into that run, and they used their art and their writing in it, and it was just a really cool moment. He's a phenomenal draftsman. He's playing with panels. He's doing abstract layouts. And he's doing something I've never seen, and I'm sure other ones have. I don't want to say that he invented this, but I've never seen in the books that I've read. He's doing panoramics. Yeah. So, like, if you take panoramic views with your cell phone, he's doing that and then making that part of the panels. And you get, like, this rounded feel, almost like you're looking at a mirror ball. It's beautiful. The man's amazing. He's doing amazing art. His brain is insane.
And something else he does that's really cool is he does a zoom in.
Yeah.
Like if you have somebody kicking somebody's knee, he'll draw a circle around it to draw your attention to it, and then draw a bigger picture of that knee getting busted. Nice. So yeah, he's a very talented guy with some very abstract page layouts and stuff.
Well, my artist is Mikhail Janin from Batman.
Yeah.
Before I got to read the amazing works of Tom King, it was Miguel's art that just made me absolutely drop my jaw. As an artist myself, that is what I picked up on first. And this is some of the most beautiful art that can get published right now in comics. From panel layouts to just the slow tension, like we spoke last time about the last issue of Batman where it was heavy dialogue. And his art with that dialogue is so perfectly, the panel layouts, the use of just facial expressions is just a page above the rest. It's amazing art.
It really
Absolutely.
is. So Jerry has written down for his Mr. Jeff Shaw, who is actually the artist on the Thanos book, along with Donnie Cates, that they just did a really good run.
Yeah.
Not a shabby choice at all, man. Not bad at all. So, all right. So our next category, favorite writer. We wouldn't have, you gotta have somebody writing the script if you want to draw it, if you want to color it. So the brilliant minds that bring us the things that we largely love. I've got to give it up to Jeff Lemire for his Black Hammer universe, not even just the main title, the entire universe. I was leaning towards Tom King because I absolutely love it. The breaking point on that was Tom King is writing one book, Jeff Lemire is writing like 4. And that's what really got me into it. And so, yeah, Mr. Lemire, my favorite writer of the year so far.
So I went with Tom King because he's actually on 2 books.
Okay.
Miracle Man and Batman.
Oh, I forgot about Miracle Man.
Yeah, Caleb. I didn't know how I read it.
I went with Tom King, and it's mainly for his work on Batman. Don't get me wrong, Miracle Man's been great, but it's a little drawn out for me at this point. But Batman has been so fantastic, but Lemire you can't argue with either.
So. No, not at all. Craig, I've also is Tom King to no surprise. But Craig pretty much explained it. And the only thing I want to add to that is, showcase of talent is to make you care about characters you didn't think you ever would. Kite Man, hell yeah.
Yeah.
That's all I got.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, and
I just think that, especially in such a big universe as Batman with a bunch of rogue galleries, King has been constantly pulling in characters and use them in ways I haven't seen. Granted, I haven't read every Batman issue ever, but I feel like his take on a lot of these villains is pretty unique. And it's been an amazing.
I actually care what is happening to the Joker right now.
Absolutely. I was going to say we're not going to have time for at least on this episode to go into books of the week, just because this is there's a lot to cover in our best of. But this past week, Tom King wrote a story with the Joker and Catwoman and broke my heart. Like
absolutely,
just wow. Like I don't know how else or what else should be said about that. But not a lot of action happens. It's a very quiet book.
He just changed the show.
He did.
Yeah.
I'm not changing it. Sorry, I'll get back on track. So, Jerry.
No, the book of the week.
Yeah, I'll tell you, one of y'all changed this morning right before we recorded while I had to go study my book while I was at work, and now we're taking it off again.
Oh, well, we decided because Jerry, okay, so let's get into, we'll tell you
real talk, behind the scenes, the real drama you got to want.
This is
some of the format, Caleb.
Some of how the sausage was made. When we were talking about doing this, we were not planning on doing a book of the week, but when Jerry was not able, we realized that he would not be able to attend. I asked if we wanted to get hyped, like maybe talk about a book of the week. Because Jerry talks a lot.
Oh my
No,
God,
I'm
he's done so.
And we love the guy. We're just picking on him because we're not here and we miss him. But you're leaving out the fourth man, so there's going to be some time that has to be eaten up. So I decided if we had time, we could maybe do a book of the week. But as we're getting into this and talking about the things that we're loving, we're not really going to have time to. So
I have to, honestly.
Just go.
I was just playing because we just changed it on the fly.
I wanted to start drama because I get ready. Caleb, you look funny.
I'll fight you.
I'll fight me now.
All right, so on to.
Well, hang on. Jerry's pick of the week was Jerry's choice for best writer was Mr. Donny Cates, and sometimes I think that Jerry lives on my short list because Donny Cates was absolutely on my short list. Yeah. Redneck is a phenomenal book. The things he did with Thanos was a phenomenal book. He's just honestly, Brian Michael Bendis left a big gap for there to be somebody to fill at Marvel, and I think if Mr. Cates plays his cards right, he could be the new go-to, Marvel's new golden boy.
Not based on what he's doing with Man of Steel. If that's the crap he's writing.
Well, I was going to say,
oh shit.
Maybe not at this moment, but there was once upon a time when books like Mighty Avengers,
New Avengers,
yeah. He has his name recognition for a reason, and there's a vacuum that has to be filled, and I think Mr. Cates can fill that vacuum.
Absolutely,
if he plays his cards right. All right, so if we didn't have writers, there wouldn't be a need to have artists. If we didn't have artists, there wouldn't be a need to have colorists. But if there weren't people publishing these books, there wouldn't be an industry. So this is the category that we're going to next. It's our favorite publisher up to this point. These are the different groups that put out a plethora of books, and they fill the shelves. They're the ones who are doing the distribution and what have you. For me, my favorite publisher up to this point is Marvel. I know I didn't talk about a lot of Marvel books as my best of, but when I look at my pull list, when I look at what's just, even if it's not my favorite thing, when I look at what is largely giving me a big heap of enjoyment, that's Marvel for me right now. I read a lot of their stuff. It incorporates a lot of what my weekly draw is. There's at least, and maybe it's because I've cultivated my list, I'm not reading anything from Marvel that I just generally don't enjoy. And I don't know why you would do that. I don't know anybody who's like, hey, this book looks like it sucks, let me read that. But I've been able to at least cultivate my own list where I'm largely really enjoying everything I'm reading from Marvel, and it gives me a big bubble to pull from. So,
yeah. My favorite publisher this year has been Aftershock Comics.
Yeah.
So the thing about it is you listen to this and you're going to go, well, Craig didn't pick anybody from Aftershock. You didn't pick any books from Aftershock. Well, the way you win a track meet is you compete very well in everything. Even if you don't win any of them, you can still win the tournament.
Yeah.
And that's what Aftershock's doing. I'm making a percentage up off the top of my head, but out of all of their books, maybe 2 or 3 that have not hit for me.
Right.
And they're putting out, maybe every month there's a new Aftershock Comics that's landing. And every one of them has been good. Every one of them entertains me, except for, like I said, like 2 or 3. So, I mean, I can't argue with their success.
No, and they're getting some phenomenal creators to work on their stuff.
My publisher pick is Image Comics. I listed several that are on here. I've already listed several of the reasons why Image is my favorite. I mean, from Saga to Rat Queens to even Savage Dragon.
Hey,
Caleb judging.
I'm not judging you.
But even more so than that, I mean, we go into books I didn't list. Walking Dead. Realm is Image. Yep. And a plethora of books I'm not reading that I hear good things about. Image just constantly seems to be pushing out more and more good books.
Well, and I think the key to their success, at least as it stands right now, is largely because they have moved towards a creator-owned format. Yeah. You make your book. You write it. Like, if you want to hire an editor, that's on you, and you bring us this, and then we'll put it out. So you're getting creators who are writing what they want to write. They're making the stories that they want to make the way that they want to make it, and that's why there's a ton of amazing stuff coming out.
And to me, like I'm going to use an example that some people look at it negatively, and I don't really get all the hate, but they've become the Netflix of comics. People kind of get on Netflix about, we'll publish anything, because they have a ton of Netflix originals. But really, it's just you're just getting more and more options out there.
Yeah.
I think Image does that more so than any company right now.
I think you're right. I think you're absolutely right. Jerry's choice for this one was Marvel for all the reasons that I said. So,
well,
yeah, that's why. If I'm going to be proxy Jerry, I'm going with my reasoning.
Yeah.
So, all right. So just across the board, it's halftime. If you're watching the Super Bowl at halftime, start making your bets on what your MVP is. So what's your halftime MVC, most valuable comic or creator for this one? For me, it's Jeff Lemire. And this can be anything from a book to a genre to anything else. Personally, it's Jeff Lemire. He's doing Black Hammer. He's doing Black Hammer Age of Doom. He's doing Sherlock Frankenstein. He's doing Dr. Starr. He's rolling with the punches. I think next week he has another book coming out that's he's doing a Marvel book. It's The Century is coming out next week. The guy just is a machine. He's a little Canadian machine. I don't know where he comes from, but he just writes and writes and writes and writes.
Writes so well. Don't forget Royal City. Sorry. He just started Hit Girl.
Yeah, just started on Hit Girl.
And Royal City.
So, and he's working with great artists on all of those books. The dude is having an amazing year. He's having an amazing 5 years.
He's drawing his own on Royal City.
Yeah.
So if you want to see his art.
So for mine, my most valuable creator or comic is coming out of Jeff Lemire.
Yeah, so mine is kind of a fun little crossover thing that happened, and it was the DC Hanna-Barbera crossover. They had some really good books like Flash and Speed Buggy, Black Dynamite, and Hong Kong Phooey, but for me especially, the MVP was Aquaman and Jabberjaw.
Yeah.
It was a fantastic book. It was one of the funnest single-issue books I've read in years.
No one's surprised. My MVP is Batman. The entire team behind them. Everyone I just listed literally is my favorite artist, writer, and colors. An amazing book, an amazing series. I've already gushed enough, so I'm stopped there. Batman's amazing.
It really is, dude. And I won't be surprised if it wins just Hugos and Eisners and everything else. So for Jerry, his MVP was Jeff Lemire for, again, all the reasons that I said. I'm making this
awesome when he's in your head.
It really is.
It's much quicker.
He just lives there. But yeah, again, all the books, man.
You thought about getting an exterminator?
I need to flush out your head.
That's called evidence, and no. I'm not hiring an exterminator for Jerry. No, but he's absolutely right, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just as far as creators go, there are a ton of people I love, but Jeff Lemire is just one of the most solid creators out there working today, man.
Yep, absolutely.
That's where we're at, guys. That's the halftime show. That's after 6 months of reading a ton of comics, looking at a ton of art, doing a ton of things. That's where we stand right now. Those are our favorites. Now, in December, or at the end of December, 1st of January, we're going to revisit this. We're going to talk about, what's changed.
Save your notes.
Read new books. Well, yeah, that's kind of absolutely we should save our notes so we can compare and contrast. And I'm looking forward to that because kind of lets us track what we're liking, and it's a good chance to just reminisce about stuff that we read. And hopefully this will mean that we won't overlook things in 6 months that we would have overlooked if we hadn't really went back and revisited it in 12. Again, we don't have time this week to do any book reviews, and I semi-apologize for that because I love doing book reviews, but I also have had a really, really good time listing this, and in a way, we've been reviewing all of these books we've talked about. This is a best of list. It wouldn't be a best of list if we hadn't reviewed them.
Do we want to at least say the books that we had chosen?
I think so. For me, the book I would have done this week would have been Batwoman number 16. It's wrapping up an arc that deals with Batwoman's sister and her clashing with Batman. So really, really good book by Bennett and Blanco.
Mine was going to be Poe Dameron by Charles Soule. Art by Angel Unzueta and colors by Reef Prianto. It's a Star Wars book that takes place. Current timeline is right after the end of The Last Jedi. So if you want to know what's happening to them, and they're kind of reviewing what happened between The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi.
My pick would have been The Runaways, a book I talked about earlier, same creative team. Big standout was it's been kind of building the last few issues about a girl that's been staying a little girl for a long time. And it's addressed in a very unique and interesting way, bringing in a character I haven't seen before in a long time. The Enchantress.
Yeah.
Being involved with that.
Yeah.
But a standout moment that made me literally laugh out loud reading it is when the little girl who doesn't age anymore, and you reveal how long she's been alive, listen to all the stuff she's mastered over the years, from martial arts to instruments, and mentioning she beat Ninja Gaiden twice on Nintendo. And that is
it
a
was
fucking
great.
accomplishment.
That line
That cracked me up.
Yes.
Well, we don't know what Jerry would have went over, but just assume. You guys know Jerry. You know what he likes, and so you can kind of imagine that. So that's all we have for books that have already came out. But this is the chance for us to kind of talk a little bit about what we're going to read next week, next Wednesday on New Comic Book Day. Brand new batch of books are ready to go. So we're going to get ahead of ourselves a little bit and talk about stuff that we're excited to pick up for next week. For me, and this is going to be a surprise, I think, to Craig more than anyone, the book I'm most excited about right now is Man of Steel #5 by Brian Michael Bendis, and Adam Hughes, is doing the art duties on this. So we're in the middle of a 6-issue miniseries of Man of Steel where Bendis is writing all of it, and he's having a different artist on each one. Number one, Adam Hughes' art is a reason to pick up any book. Also, why I want to pick this up is because I flat out, not to get overtly negative, and I'm going to have our 50-50 rule, I flat out hated issue 4. The cover had nothing to do with the story. It was beautifully drawn. That's my positive. It's a beautifully drawn story cover that has nothing to do with what happens in the book because nothing happens in the book. I'm going to pick up #5 because I'm going to see if it redeems itself. This is right in the middle of an arc. I think it might just be a dip, and then we're going to get back to good because 1 through 3 have been solid books. I've been enjoying it so far. But I think largely this cover was just to stir up controversy and make people mad on it.
I can't complete the 50-50 rule on that book, so I'm just going to go on to my
Okay.
our
That's fair.
pick for next week is Century #1.
Yeah.
Jeff Lemire, Marvel book. Last time we saw Century, he was insane. So kind of interested to see what's going on with him now. If he's back to sanity. The only thing they can do is make him insane because he's so damn overpowered. So it'll be great to see what Lemire does with that character. Bring some humanity to him, I'm sure.
That would be interesting.
Yeah.
My pick is Venom #3, simply because Venom #2 ended with Venom Cthulhu God. And I need to know where the fuck this is going.
That book is amazing.
It's been great, man. I can't wait for the next issue.
And we'll say that Jerry's would also be Venom #3.
Yes.
So he's going to look up to it. Well, guys, is there any, we've got a little bit of time left there. Any honorable mentions from this past week you want to throw out there that you did read that you really enjoyed that people should check out just by name alone?
Batman.
Yeah.
Batman, phenomenal Joker story.
Amazing Spider-Man 801 was the end of the Dan Slott era.
Yeah.
Avengers, another good issue.
The Avengers was going to be mine. That's a solidly good book. I enjoyed all of it. But, all right, are we ready to bring this?
Weapon H.
Oh, Weapon H. Great art in that, too.
It was a
by
great
the way.
book
Just
this
all,
week, yeah.
all of it is really good. We ready to bring this thing home?
Yeah. Let's go.
Anybody, any more ground we need to cover? Anything else?
No, I think we got it.
Everybody doing good?
Yeah.
How are you guys? I miss you.
You're doing fantastic.
I love you. All right, so if you have liked what you've heard this episode, and as always, we really hope you have, you can go on iTunes if that's how you find us and leave us a rating and review. It lets us know how we're doing. It lets other people know that we might be worth listening to, and that's what we want to do. We want to provide a special quality and not just something that's special. So you can also find us online. We are almost arguably the top tier of social media categories. We have an Instagram page, we have a Twitter page, and we're at SFG Podcast on both of those. We have a Facebook page that we're on, all of us are on all the time, posting articles and news. That's the Southern Fried Geekery Podcast on Facebook. Come and join us. Like our page. You can share the show from that page. We post the show every week. If you want your friends to know where to find us, listen to it, share us on your own page. That'd be awesome. We would greatly appreciate that. You can email us at southernfriedgeekery@gmail.com. And you can always go on our YouTube channel, which Sean has been so awesome to make happen. And you can download the show from there, too. You can also share that link on your own personal pages. Word of mouth is a great way to spread something that you like. If you're on all of our personal pages, we all share stuff on there all the time from other people that we enjoy. Throw us a bone. Let other people know if you enjoy us, they might as well.
Yeah.
We would greatly appreciate that. And I think we've about ran our course on this one, guys. We listed a whole lot of books. I'm going to do my best to make kind of a bullet list of this to put out there. Maybe it won't fit in the show notes, but I'll try to accompany it with the show. Other than that, go forth and love some comics, and we will revisit this in 6 months. Proxy Jerry says woohoo.
Woo!